She introduced herself to the jury here by saying that Sean Combs had sexually assaulted her.
She testified that she was a rape victim.
First time she met Combs, she said he was in his underwear.
What happens when a celebrity's name carries enough weight to allegedly halt a police investigation? In this gripping courtroom drama, Diddy stands accused not only of rape, but also of wielding disturbing influence over law enforcement. Stay with us as we break down the jaw-dropping testimony from a former assistant, revelations that left the entire courtroom in shock.
No idea how it's possible, and I'm sure Mia is probably, panicking in this moment in time. Like, are people stalking her on the internet, trying to figure out her identity? She testified that she was a rape victim, essentially. There's rape shield laws that exist to try to protect people in her position. And so this is really getting very nerve-wracking probably for her, and just absurd for the court.
Yeah, this testimony today was from a woman who was testifying under the name Mia. The judge said this is a pseudonym and that no one was to record her. They wanted to keep her anonymity. It was the deal with the prosecution. But she was talking about, she is a former assistant of Diddy's, and talked about a 2010 incident where Diddy and Cassie found out that Prince was having this private house party. Diddy didn't want to go. He was staying home and said that Cassie should not go. But Cassie was at home with Mia, and they talked about it and decided they were going to go. So they went to the party. She says they were having a great time watching Prince perform on a dining room table. And then suddenly she saw Diddy walk in and was terrified. And she grabbed Cassie and she said they ran out of the party. They ran across the street. They are hiding in a wooded area behind some bushes. But Diddy found them and grabbed Cassie, she said, and started to assault her when suddenly one of Prince's security guards ran over there and had to pull Diddy off of Cassie, separate them, and that was the end of the violence for that particular evening. But the way she described it on the stand really sounded like a movie playing out, and you could really envision what was happening that night in 2010.
Who is the woman known only as Mia, and why did her testimony shake the courtroom to its core? Shielded by a pseudonym to protect her identity, Mia served as Diddy's personal assistant for 8 years. But her time in that role, she testified, was far from the glamorous, fast-paced life outsiders might imagine. Instead, it was a world she described as suffocating, secretive, and deeply disturbing, a behind-the-scenes reality that starkly contrasted with the public image of luxury and power. Mia painted a picture of a life completely absorbed by Diddy's. "My life became his life," she stated plainly. Her responsibilities went far beyond managing schedules or booking travel. According to her, she was expected to protect his reputation at any cost, even if that meant lying, intimidating others, or covering up disturbing behavior that left her shaken. As she recounted her experiences, a heavy silence settled over the courtroom. Mia spoke of explosive outbursts, moments when Diddy's temper erupted into chaos, often directed at those closest to him. Her voice quivered as she recalled the fear those moments instilled. This wasn't just about a demanding boss, the jury quickly realized. It was about a culture of fear and domination. One of the most jarring aspects of her testimony was the theme of control. Mia told the court about a moment when Diddy allegedly berated her for simply speaking to a guest too long at an event. The verbal tirade that followed, she said, was so intense that she still trembled recalling it. She went on to describe how her personal life had no real boundaries. Diddy, she claimed, would call her at all hours or track her whereabouts, always ensuring she remained under his thumb. Experts in workplace abuse often cite this type of behavior as a textbook example of a toxic power dynamic, one that leaves employees feeling trapped, emotionally manipulated, and afraid to speak out. For Mia, the decision to testify against a figure as powerful as Diddy was not just courageous, it was monumental. The courtroom could feel the weight of that choice as she grew emotional while describing the toll it took to bring these allegations into the light. Her words didn't just capture the jury's attention, they gripped everyone in the room. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the gallery, but no one dared speak too loudly. The real shock came when Mia shifted from recounting what she had seen to what she had personally endured. The atmosphere changed instantly. A sense of dread crept in as the courtroom braced for the revelations to come. Mia was no longer just a witness to disturbing behavior. She was now stepping forward as a survivor. What followed would not only captivate the jury, but also ignite public attention. Across the country,
Mia, and she introduced herself to the jury here by saying that Sean Combs had sexually assaulted her. She hasn't testified about it yet. Instead, she's talking about times she said she witnessed violence against Cassie Ventura, the time she said Combs slammed her head against a bed and drew blood and left a gash in Cassie Ventura's eyebrow, the time they attended a party against Combs's wishes at Prince's house when they danced on plexiglass covering the pool. Prince performed, but then Combs arrived, chased them down, and was about to attack Cassie when she said Prince's security intervened. She also, this woman Mia, gave the jury a sense of what it was like to be his personal assistant.
What I find more troubling and less likely is videos being sent by random people on the internet. And that's what they want to proffer as evidence in this criminal trial. I find that hard to be admitted. They can track the video from one person, confirm the identity of the person, then it can be used for a piece of evidence. That's different. But random people on the internet sending videos, that opens the door to a can of worms.
Well, I mean, Tyler, they would have to authenticate it, make sure it's real, and couldn't they theoretically be able to use it?
They could theoretically be able to use it, but it seems like they're trying to use it right now when Mia's going to get back on the stand. I haven't heard of any witness to authenticate the video yet. They're just talking about displaying this video. That's what seems to be a little odd to me.
First time she met Combs, she said he was in his underwear. And then the first day on the job, she said she didn't sleep because she was made to go to his house, to his recording studio, to an apartment. She also said that she worked sometimes 5 days in a row without sleep and was made to do everything from anticipating his moves to cracking his knuckles to doing his taxes to standing there 22 hours a day doing nothing.
from the moment Mia began to recount her most harrowing experience in court, the atmosphere shifted. Her voice trembled as she opened up about what she called the darkest chapter of her 8 years working under Diddy, a night she alleges ended in rape behind closed doors. What followed was a haunting narrative that left the courtroom silent, every word hanging heavy in the air. According to Mia, the events didn't begin with sudden violence, but with something more insidious: manipulation and calculated isolation. She testified that Diddy had a pattern of creating environments that made her feel trapped, coerced into compliance by his power and authority. On the night in question, she said he summoned her to his private quarters under the guise of discussing an urgent work matter. What unfolded next, she described as a nightmare she had tried to suppress for years. Her voice cracked as she detailed how his demeanor that night was cold, commanding, and menacing, offering no room for refusal. Every instinct in her told her to leave, but the immense power imbalance rendered her frozen, she said. As she described the alleged assault, some jurors shifted uncomfortably in their seats, others scribbling notes with tight expressions. No, one in the room moved. The prosecution allowed her raw account to stand on its own, unvarnished and unsoftened. Mia's testimony painted a chilling picture of fear, control, and subjugation. A dynamic that, she claimed, had defined her entire professional relationship with Diddy. And while the details were graphic, it was the emotional impact that hit hardest. Spectators in the gallery were visibly shaken. One woman dabbed at tears as Mia spoke. Diddy, meanwhile, sat rigid in his seat, his eyes rarely lifting. When they did, it was only to briefly glance at his attorney before dropping again to the floor, his posture tight, his jaw clenched. The once imposing figure appeared increasingly uneasy as Mia's testimony chipped away at the carefully curated image of wealth, charisma, and control that had long surrounded him. Experts in trauma often note how testifying can reopen psychological wounds, especially when recounting deeply personal violations in front of strangers and under cross-examination. Mia seemed to understand this risk, but as she continued, her voice, though still fragile, grew steadier. Her pain, it seemed, had become a source of resolve. The prosecution framed her account as not just a standalone act of violence, but part of a broader, systemic abuse of power. Mia's story, they argued, was emblematic of a pattern in which Diddy's fame and influence were used to silence, dominate, and exploit. Her words didn't just tell a story, they pulled back the curtain on a world few ever saw. One moment, in particular, brought the courtroom to a standstill. Mia broke down as she described how, after the alleged assault, Diddy acted as if nothing had happened. That casual disregard, she said, deepened the trauma. It wasn't just the violation itself, but the clear message that her pain didn't matter. For several long seconds after she spoke, the courtroom remained frozen in silence. Even the quiet rustle of papers had ceased.
I don't think so. No, I think that would be like the best appeal point ever on the side of the defense. I think the case gets overturned because you're violating the confrontation clause. You know, you're taking away Diddy's right to confront his accuser, especially because she's already given all of the testimony that was apparently positive for the prosecution, and then cutting her off before even one question could be asked by or maybe not one, but the full cross-examination be completed. I think it gets overturned.
What do you think the judge is going to do here? I mean, do you think the judge is first of all, can the judge order an investigation into this? And also, Tyler, do you think the judge is going to allow this piece of evidence in? If we're reading this correctly through the transcript, that this is a situation where she might be faking the way she's speaking on the stand, feels like relevant evidence for cross-examination, but at the same time, the way they're getting it and the issue of her identity being revealed, A, can the judge order some sort of investigation here? And B, you think he's going to allow this video in?
Well, it's probably 3 o'clock right now, or close to 2 o'clock. If I was the judge, which I'm not, I think this would be a good time to see what this video looks like. Let's see what testimony would be given, what examination questions will be asked by defense. Break for the day, and he'll make his ruling and start on Monday fresh, whether this video is going to be allowed in or not allowed. I think that would be a good way for the court to explore, the potential pitfalls here, see how the defense is going to authenticate this video. Now, regarding any additional protections for Mia, I think that the court and parties involved in this case have appeared to do everything possible to protect her identity. The fact of the matter is, this is a high-profile case. People are watching this all across the country, and you would think that she would be on the stand giving facts about pictures with Cassie and being in South Africa that people weren't looking on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere else on social media to try to put two and two together. That's hard to believe. So I'm not shocked that people have identified her, because I'm pretty sure people are on their phones right now trying to look into it. Yeah, they're not going to allow the video in. They were saying that there's been substantial social media posts already admitted into evidence showing that Mia has been in communications and contact with Mr. Combs, and she said things like, "I love you, you're a mentor," and things of that nature. But it sounds like this video, defense believes this is going to be some strong evidence. I'm pretty sure they're going to want their objections noted for the record. This to be issued on appeal if this is highly prejudicial for Mr. Combs' case.
Well, Serena, I mean, it seems like they're saying we're using it for a different purpose. We're not trying to suggest, hey, she's making up the story because look at, positive posts she's making about Sean Combs. But no, this video shows she's not talking same affect that she is on the stand. So it seems, if I'm understanding correctly, they're trying to use this video for a different kind of impeachment.
I totally agree with you, and I think, not to assume too many things, but to me, this feels like the judge saying, you know what, I'm just going to say it's cumulative because we got to keep this trial going. We have Mia on the stand who's probably falling apart. I'm not going to want to bring her back on Monday. Finish her testimony, get her off the stand. Let's keep this trial moving at the right pace. And I do agree with you. I think that that the judge is just making that decision to make that decision. I don't think it's actually cumulative.
You know, it's a great question. Just by the way, another update in court. Brian Steele, this is Sean Combs' defense counsel, one of them, can ask if she sent it. Can I ask if she sent it? The judge says yes. I'm going to ask about scrapbooks. The prosecutor and I have a disagreement. I have 3 copies, one for the jurors to pass around. The honorable prosecutor and I disagree. So it looks like a separate question. Great question from Michelle LaBelle. Tyler, how does the public know how she's acting in court, which is different than usual if they're not allowed in court? So that makes me think now, the only people to know how she's actually testifying and the way that she's speaking are those who are in the courtroom. Now, I'm not making any conspiracy theories here, but that's a good question, right? Why would this video be circulating? Unless of course, someone found out her identity from the outside, just was circulating the video, and defense counsel said, wait a minute. The way she's talking in this video is very different than the way she's talking on the stand. Or the more ominous conspiracy theory is someone in the court who knew the way she was speaking starts circulating the video online. I mean, I don't want to be engaging in conspiracy theories here, but it's a great question from Michelle LaBelle, no?
Yeah, it's a great question. But one thing that Combs' defense lawyer just said is, can I ask her if she sent it? Now, if they're referencing the video that he wants to ask her if she sent it, they must know who she sent the video to.
Mia's testimony took an even darker turn as she began recounting what she claimed to have witnessed between Diddy and Cassie Ventura during her years as his assistant. To the public, Diddy and Cassie were a picture-perfect power couple, flawless on red carpets and featured in glossy magazine spreads. But behind closed doors, Mia alleged, the reality was far more disturbing. According to her, Diddy's behavior toward Cassie was marked by a toxic blend of control, volatility, and emotional manipulation. The home, she said, was anything but a sanctuary. It was a pressure cooker of tension, fear, and emotional warfare. Mia drew a stark contrast between the polished images of the couple in public and the chaos she claimed to witness in private. One of the most jarring moments Mia described involved a heated argument that erupted over something seemingly insignificant, a minor comment made at a dinner party. But what followed, she testified, was anything but minor. She claimed to have seen Diddy shove Cassie against a wall, screaming at her with a level of rage that stunned even Mia, despite her years of working closely with him. What stood out most, she said, was Cassie's reaction. Not shock, but resignation, as if this kind of violence wasn't new, but something she had come to expect. Mia went on to describe a broader pattern of control that she alleged stretched beyond physical altercations. She recounted times when Diddy demanded access to Cassie's phone, tracked her location, and pressured her to cut ties with friends he deemed unnecessary. One especially chilling detail involved Cassie becoming increasingly isolated from her support network, under the guise, Mia said, of needing to prioritize Diddy's needs and their relationship. These behaviors, experts on abusive relationships, note, are classic signs of coercive control, where one partner methodically erodes the other's autonomy to maintain dominance. For Mia, witnessing this wasn't just disturbing, it left a lasting psychological mark. She admitted that, at the time, fear for her own job and well-being kept her silent. But now, she said, that same silence had become unbearable. I didn't. Speak up then, but I have to now, Mia told the court, her voice cracking. She expressed deep regret for not intervening, saying that part of her decision to testify was to give voice not just to her own experience, but to Cassie's, and potentially others who may have suffered in silence under Diddy's influence. But perhaps the most haunting moment of her testimony came when Mia described a night she said she would never forget. She recalled hearing screams coming from behind a locked door where Diddy and Cassie were arguing. Her face visibly tense, she told the court, "No one should ever be spoken to, let alone treated like that." The courtroom fell still. The prosecution leaned into the emotional weight of that moment, using it to reinforce their argument. that Diddy's relationships weren't defined by love or partnership, but by domination and fear. They framed Mia's testimony as part of a broader narrative, one where power was used not to protect, but to control and destroy.
They sent random people earlier. They may not be trying to show their whole hand here. Mr. Combs knows Mia clearly, so he knows how she acted when she was with him versus how she's acting now. The defense has, offices, and they have associates and other people who are on the outside who could be investigating, trying to collect evidence that could be used to help Mr. Combs in real time. Now, do I think somebody there, Plant, who's a reporter or something, helping with this? No, but this is a high-profile case. She's testifying. To think that there aren't people on the outside who have interest in this case, whether as associates, employees of either side of this case, be foolish.
Got a question from Laya. This is a question for you, Serena. Did Mia get exposed?
Yeah, it's possible. And again, it's very scary if so, because everyone's trying to protect this woman and she deserves that protection and privacy. But as we've been saying, it is still a somewhat public trial. There are going to be not only people in the courtroom, but online sleuths. I mean, even the court drawing, though her face is blurred out, we can tell her race, we can tell her hair color, we can tell her stature. And, there are probably going to be people, maybe not in Diddy's inner circle, but maybe even in the second or third degree circle, who know who this woman is. And so to think that she has complete anonymity in today's day and age with, online sleuthing and just the ability to find things out about people, it's just so easy today. So I do think that someone figured out who she was.
We'll get a question from Melissa Budas. This is for you, Tyler. Didn't the previous witness, the stylist, so Deontay Nash, confirm a lot of Mia's testimony?
No, he confirmed a lot of her testimony, and everybody that the prosecution is calling as witness, their testimony is meant to build on each other. Think about the witnesses that led up to Kid Cudi testifying. You had Deontay Nash, who testified a couple days ago, and now Mia, who's testifying now. So the prosecution is not calling witnesses, and they're going to be surprised at what they say. They have an idea of what they're going to say, and they want to present this case methodically in the way they want. The whole point of planning for trial, presenting your case in a way that's going to be effective.
Could a name alone be enough to stop the police in their tracks? That's the chilling question raised by Mia's latest testimony, one that sent a ripple of tension through the courtroom as she alleged that Sean Diddy Combs wielded a level of influence over the Los Angeles Police Department that extended far beyond celebrity privilege. According to Mia, Diddy frequently boasted that his fame granted him protections few could ever dream of. She described his tone as cocky, even smug, when talking about his supposed ties to law enforcement, implying that any potential fallout from his behavior could be erased with a single phone call. These claims didn't just add another dramatic twist to an already explosive trial, they hinted at a disturbing layer of institutional reach. Mia testified that during heated moments, particularly after alleged violent outbursts, Diddy would often reassure those around him not to worry, suggesting he had the right people in the right places to clean up any mess. One incident she recalled involved a neighbor threatening to call the police because of noise coming from one of his parties. Diddy's alleged response: "The LAPD won't touch me. They know who I am." While this statement remains unverified beyond Mia's account, its impact on the courtroom was unmistakable. Jurors shifted in their seats, leaned forward, and furiously took notes, recognizing the gravity of what was being suggested. If true, the idea that Diddy's connections could shield him from legal consequences adds a harrowing dimension to Mia's overall narrative. That of a man whose power was so far-reaching, it left those around him feeling helpless. Legal analysts warn that proving this kind of influence is notoriously difficult. Unlike financial records or physical evidence, institutional sway is often subtle, informal, and undocumented. It's built on offhand comments, favors, and long-standing relationships, none of which leave a paper trail. The defense is likely to pounce on this, arguing the claims are speculative, possibly exaggerated, and lacking hard proof. Still, perception matters. In cases involving powerful figures, the belief that someone is untouchable can have a chilling effect. Victims or witnesses may not need to be explicitly threatened. The mere assumption that the accused can make problems go away is often enough to silence them. Mia admitted this belief shaped her own decisions, saying she feared no one would believe her if she spoke out against someone with Diddy's level of fame and influence. She painted a picture of a culture of impunity, one where Diddy's unchecked confidence in avoiding consequences not only emboldened his behavior, but also discouraged those around him from challenging it. "I didn't think anyone would believe me, not against someone like him," Mia said softly, her voice barely audible. That single sentence seemed to hang in the air, heavier than anything that came before. The prosecution seized on the moment, highlighting it as a critical thread in their broader narrative. This isn't just about abuse, it's about power, and how power can corrupt systems meant to deliver justice. They hinted that Mia might not be the only one prepared to speak on this alleged web of influence, signaling that more testimony could further illuminate how deep Diddy's reach really went. As the trial continues, the question lingers: was Diddy's power simply the natural byproduct of his celebrity, or was it something more calculated and dangerous? The answer, the prosecution argues, could shape not just the outcome of this case, but how society views accountability for those at the very top.
I know that he definitely that it was a overlap of testimony regarding trying to intervene when Sean Combs allegedly was attacking Cassie. One of the few times we ever heard anybody do that, but that Mia tried to step in, he tried to step in, he mentioned Mia. Serena, we got a question here from Green Yoshi once again. Is there another color Yoshi? I gotta play Super Mario 3, I don't remember. All right, what is being done to protect the jury in terms of their identities post-trial?
That's a great question. A jury is, the people who are on this case might be nervous about something like that. Obviously, they were very well vetted. Questions were asked of them, and somehow they ended up on this jury as unbiased and willing participants, I guess. But there is always that fear that they're going to be found out. Sometimes people take advantage of that. They like to write about it, or they like to give interviews, but you don't have to. And it is a nerve-wracking thing if people find out who you are and you've been on this trial, because sometimes people are very upset at the eventual verdict.
One more question I'm going to throw to you, Tyler. This is from Enlin DK once again. If they're saying she's faking, meaning Mia, couldn't the same be said about Diddy? Where's the bling and ego?
Well, bling is not on him. He's now a resident of a detention facility while he's pending trial. He hasn't taken a stand yet either. Put himself up there and remind people that he is presumed innocent until he's found guilty by a jury. He does not have to present any evidence. It's up to the prosecution's job to present their case and get these criminal charges proved beyond a reasonable doubt. So if he does get on the stand, yes, they could say that Mr. Combs is acting. Now, there could be you could insinuate that the clothes that he's wearing, that people have described, they look somewhat like Bill Cosby as Mr. Huxtable, right, in the Cosby Show, versus the mere Sean Puffy Combs that people are used to. I can see that, but he's not on the stand here. He's sitting at the table as the defendant, trying to talk to his counsel about how they can discredit any witness that gets to the stand for the prosecution.
So, quick update from court. Judge, you can give it to them. Judge says you can give it to them for a couple minutes. Bring Mia back in. Then the jury. The witness enters. Jury enters. Okay, Brian Steele asks, what is the Breakfast Club? Mia says, the name of our camp, Puff's friend group, still partying at breakfast. I was invited in once.
How does a trial move forward after testimony as explosive as Mia's? Her words now sit at the heart of the prosecution's case, a foundation built on disturbing claims of sexual assault, systemic manipulation, and unchecked influence, including over law enforcement. With every detail she shared, a more complex portrait of Sean Diddy Combs emerged, not just as a celebrity, but as a man allegedly insulated by power, money, and status. And now, what happens next could redefine the course of this high-stakes legal battle, the defense is almost certainly preparing to go on the offensive. One of their likely strategies will be to challenge Mia's credibility, starting with the timing of her testimony. Why now, years after leaving her role as Diddy's assistant? They may attempt to frame her decision to come forward as opportunistic, perhaps linking it to Cassie Ventura's recent civil lawsuit, or the wave of media scrutiny now surrounding Diddy. Another key angle the defense is expected to pursue is the issue of evidence, or lack thereof. Much of Mia's testimony is emotional and deeply personal, but in the courtroom, emotions must stand up to legal scrutiny. The defense may zero in on areas where there is little or no corroboration, suggesting that her claims are based on memories that, while vivid, are ultimately unverifiable. In high-profile cases, sowing doubt, rather than disproving the story outright, is often enough to sway a jury.